You're listening to a 4x4 Radio Network podcast.
Hey, Jeepers, Jeepettes. We'll just leave it at that. I didn't realize that rhymed. Oh, my heavens. I'm channeling my inner Whoville. Anyway,
the show 196.
on the trail with Kevin and Scott. I'm Kevin, a little bit brain dead after a very long day doing non-Jeep related house repairs or modifications or all kinds of crazy stuff.
But you still were the engineer on that project.
Well, yeah, but it did the same thing last weekend at your place too, where except it was in the garage, and so maybe the LJ was outside, the Gladiator was in the driveway, and the GPW was behind us the whole time.
Yes,
but we made the GPW very happy.
That was a cool project. So while we will share what worked with us as well as what didn't, it's always up to you to read the instructions, follow them, and do your own research. Did I get it somewhat right this time?
Yeah, you got the spirit of it. We'll go with that. In other words, folks, don't let somebody else tell you what to do with your Jeep. You do what you want to do with your Jeep. So I'm Kevin. That was the part you kind of left out who you were.
Yes, that's right.
The engineer, for those of you who listen a lot of time, you know that. I'm the guy who reads instructions, uses the right tools, and generally follows the instructions and is well aware those times that I don't follow the instructions, I'm the responsible party for what happens.
Yes, and I am Scott, the slapstick parts guy with an intent to try and remember the intro to this show being, since 2016, you do the math, it's a long time. But with that...
And he helped write it, which is the fun part.
Exactly. So other than that, I hope everyone is having a fun weekend this past weekend over at Jeeptoberfest. Unfortunately, the work... gods did not line up, and I was stuck working. Boo. But, hey, we got some projects done over here at Kevin's today, so we hope you guys had a fun time.
Yeah. Hope it was good. Let us know how it was for those of you down here in Florida, playing at in the Jeeptoberfest and the whole Halloween theme thing.
I did see a video just now a few minutes ago where someone went through the mud hole.
Yeah.
Guys, those 6 bolts that hold your hard top down are very important. He lost his hard top going through the mud hole at a nice long clip.
Oh, did he not have the bolts tight,
apparently,
or not have them on, or did the fiberglass? Oh, didn't have them in.
Apparently, he hit a bump, it bounced the hard top off, and left the hard top right there in the middle of the mud hole.
Oopsie.
Yeah, pretty much. So he didn't read the instructions.
That's for sure. Well, or that he didn't follow them. Going, nah, gravity will hold it on.
It's 8 less ounces of weight, so we can go faster.
Okay. Well, anyway, we're sorry it happened, but
live and learn.
Live and learn. Live and learn. So, Scott. On a interesting note here, we are. I think you posted it to our listeners that we are going to be at Crawling for the Fallen this year again.
We are actually a vendor this year.
We are actually a vendor, so we will have a booth. We have a sign.
Yes.
And not much else. We may have the audio gear set up there and interview you folks, anybody that wants to walk along or talk to you and record it so that you can be either famous or infamous, depending on your viewpoint.
Well, I'm hoping, because if I have to push it there, we're hoping to have the GPW there too.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good idea.
Well, it's a 30 by 40 area, so we have to put something in there other than our tent.
Well, we can. Yeah, I'd like to put, for example, our Jeeps, other Jeeps there. But one of the things about these events is that once you bring it in, you don't take it back out until it's over. And it's like, well, if I got to go somewhere, or I'd like to get lunch or something like that.
Yes.
Minor details.
But with that, we're going to be there. Come on and say hi. This is the 10th annual, I think it is.
I don't know. You tell me.
That's a good question.
Okay. Well,
I think it's the 10th annual.
One of the things we have been doing is, as usual, we will be the announcers for the night ride. And as sad as it is to still even have to announce it, which means there were fallen officers in 2022. This is the 2022 ride. Some positive news is the number of deaths is drastically less this year. So praise the Lord, luck, whatever you wish. I'll give my thanks up above.
Yes.
We are talking 30 to 85% reduction in fatalities in various categories. It's a phenomenal change, and it's so pleasant to hear that so many
the numbers are down.
Officers are going home to their families.
Yeah.
So we'll go into more stats on that when we do the recording for the crawl-in, and it is when, Scott?
It is November 10th and 11th.
In?
The firm. It's at the firm. I know that.
Okay.
If you check Off-Road United, I'll put a
Off-Road
link.
United, yeah.
I'll put a link in the notes to Off-Road United page, and that way you guys can check it out. Registration's still open, I think. You can up till October 31st. I think.
Awesome. So that's fantastic. And again, heart and soul out to the families who still lost loved ones, but the fact that there were that many less, that's a trend in the right direction.
Yes, absolutely. All the proceeds raised go to the COPS Fund, which is Citizens or Concerns of Police Survivors. Again, I'll link the note to Off-Road United. They have all the information about just everything really.
Now, I do want to give a shout out to a listener, Zach. You know who you are. Thank you so much for the email. We appreciate it. Zach was listening to the show when we were talking about Scott's throwout bearing for the umpteenth time of replacement, and he has an LJ with the same problem with his 05 6-speed, and Zach went so far as to buy all the throwout bearings he could find and do tests on them, and he did a write-up. And if you want, Scott, can we put that out as a link on our Facebook page? Zach, thank you so much. It's awesome. He's on the Wrangler TJ forum, and he did a clutch release bearing shootout. So if any of you are having short-lived throwout bearings like a certain co-host, one of our listeners was a champion to go out there and do this himself and then turn around and share it with us to share it with you. It's kind of a neat thing to go through, and you know what? I'm not going to tell you the results. You can go look at it.
Exactly. It's in depth. It's
a great...
I was gonna say, he did his due diligence. He actually has all the information there.
The other thing I gotta give him a thumbs up is he was doing. He will tell. I'll spill it that he did like his center force bearing that he worked for that had it run for about 40,000 miles till he decided to pull the whole drivetrain and swap in a 5.7 Hemi and a 54.5 RFE automatic transmission. He also has paperwork for those of you that want to do the Mopar-based swap to your earlier Jeeps with how he was able to do the wiring harness modifications to make the electrical systems in the Jeep work with the Hemi and the computer changes that allowed you to keep the factory gauges in your TJs, which is PCI-based bus versus a CAN bus. And that is no mean feat. And the fact that he's willing to share that information is awesome.
Yeah.
Zach also has a claim to fame that I'm really kind of jealous of, Zach. He works as a mechanic and final assembly tech at the Martin Brothers Customs in Johnson City, Texas. Now, how many of you are going, oh my God, I know who that is? And other ones are going, I don't know who that is. And if you don't know who it is, you should.
Yeah.
Back on Motor Trend TV, there was a show called, and still going around, and it may have been renewed, called Iron Resurrection. And the Martins, who own the shop, and all of the absolutely fantastic custom rods and trucks that they build. So he actually gets to work there. I watched that show for years when I had cable that got it, and now I don't. And so I can only watch reruns on the Hulu system that I have through Starlink. Zach, I'm a little jealous, but it's cool. It's awesome that you get to work with talented and just absolutely artistically gifted people. And so congrats to you, and thanks so much for sharing, and thanks even more for taking the time to write us.
And listening, too.
Yeah, that's kind of important.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Again, like I said, with the write-up and all the information, I'll put a link on in the show notes. That way we can share his information.
Right.
But it just goes to show you, you never know what you're going to get in the email bag. We get people asking questions all the time to that. I mean, it's really kind of cool in retrospect. We've been doing this now since 2016. That's like, this many years, 7, 8 years now almost, and it's just kind of cool. Like just the fact that again. I don't know, man. I'm geeking out a little bit. Sorry, guys, but again, we really appreciate all the feedback. Whether it be again, you did your road write up, the information. Paul Jordan, he just had his Jeep at Jeeptoberfest, and he's the one that went with the lock and load long arm kit. Mm-hmm. He just scored a 990 on the CTI ramp,
right?
And he was very excited about that. Again, he's the one that had wore the GPW shirt for Autumn,
okay,
at Jeep Beach, but congratulations to that for him, because he reached out to me and said, "Hey, check out what happened." And again, he listened to the show, got his rolled up his sleeves, got his hands dirty, and built his Jeep, and now it's starting to
built it his way, and he's now coming out top notch with it. So that's awesome.
It's coming together.
That's absolutely awesome. And I'll be honest, I've got plans for slightly altered, but don't get your hopes up too quick. I've got a barn still to build and a place to work on it, and then the project itself may take a year or more, but we'll keep you apprised if and when the knife comes out. Right now she's still a test bed. I got requested by friends at WranglerFix.com, Mark, and Mark is doing some more prototyping for tunings, PCMs with, I wouldn't call them a factory tune, but already hot rodded or tuned to meet the peculiarities, let's say, of the 4-liter.
Right.
And you guys know, we talked about it before. I did another one, did a first one for him, and it was very good. It had some issues, nothing horrible.
But that's what beta testing is.
That's what beta testing is. Transmission shifts were a little crisper than I liked, and downshifting was a little bit hesitant. It still wanted to lock up that overdrive and not let it unlock. And it became kind of noticeable when we were cruising the mountains in Pennsylvania. You had to reach down, turn it off to get yourself up the hill.
Right.
I shouldn't call them hills. In Pennsylvania, they're the Allegheny Mountains.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can actually see mountains in Pennsylvania.
Yes. And it's not a fault. This is what beta testing is all about, and was giving reports back. So he sent me another one, and this one addresses most of the shift issues and has a few other tunes to help with a little bit of the power and fuel economy, and I just got it. And so we've got some time to spend on that, but it is installed and has been driven around, and so that's kind of what, not real exciting, but I try to help smaller businesses like theirs that are trying to make life better for those of us in the Jeep world. And so he asked me if I'd be willing to beta, and I'm quite happy to experiment.
Oh yeah.
And I tell him, well, give it to me and I'll do my damnedest to break it.
We got to keep these old irons on the road, man.
Yep. And speaking old irons on the road, folks, I've mentioned it before that I've had had a senior moment. How about that?
It's been a long day, guys. It really has.
No, I've had a phantom power drain on the battery that, when stored for a long time, I was coming up with a dead battery. And fortunately, the Odyssey that I've got is a great battery, and they've come back without a problem. And I finally got frustrated and said, I'm going to figure it out. So I sat down there and I started doing the circuit by circuit by circuit by circuit check. And when nothing came up with a phantom draw, nothing was wrong that I could see. And I'm going, okay, if it's not there, where is it? And then it dawned on me. And this is not something you'd expect to be a phantom drain.
Right.
But it was the charge manager for when I tow my Jeep. When I flat tow, or even when I trailer, but primarily when I flat tow the Jeep, I have a particular brand of system hooked up for the tow bar and the power system. I have a 6-way on the bumper that I can plug into the truck, or if I take the RV, and it feeds full power from the charging system on the tow vehicle into the Jeep and monitors and keeps the battery charged. Well, that charging system happens to not run through the fuse box, specifically by request of the manufacturer. Does run through a 15-amp fuse to the primary terminal, not on the battery. I go to the fuse box, but it's into the battery cable to the battery. and it's a Bluetooth. It reports up to a Bluetooth item. Apparently, it doesn't have a sleep cycle, folks.
Oh, boy.
And not only when it doesn't have a sleep cycle, because it's pinging the electrical system, it kept the Jeep's computer awake the whole time.
Right.
And so I was having somewhere between half to 3/4 of an amp draw continuously. Mm-hmm. And that will take even the best battery down in short order.
Yeah.
And then I was having charging system issues, so that's why it wasn't coming back up. However, when I went back and actually reread the operating instructions, it recommended removing the inline fuse when not in use.
Yeah, so you can
I can tell you to follow the instructions, and then, like I said, it's my fault. I'm the one that read it and didn't do it. Because as soon as I unplug that, I've left the Jeep parked for now upwards of 6 weeks and come back and turn the key, and not even a slow crank. It's boom, off she goes. So,
in your defense, Po Buddy's Nerfic.
That's true.
Yeah.
I get my Merdswigs too. But that just shows you that, best plans, if they're not followed. What did we say? Piss poor planning promulgates piss poor performance.
And now we're censored. No, I'm joking.
There was not a swear
I'm
word
joking.
in there at all.
Sometimes I just want to random bleep stuff just to have people wonder.
We did that in the first probably 100 shows. But that's about the closest that I've got to wrenching on the Jeep recently is, that kind of stuff. And I think I told you last time about when I found out that I had more front wheel bearings, and that turned into both front wheel bearings, both sets of front wheel bearings, which then followed into I better check the trailer. And
yep.
Yeah.
Right before Jasper, we talked about that.
Right before Jasper. But they're all working well now, and I've gone back and checked them after coming back from Pennsylvania and Jasper. And we did talk about getting that, but
lubricated bearings work better, don't they?
Huh?
Lubricated bearings with actual grease work better than dirt.
Yeah, with functional seals. That kind of helps too.
Hey, I got to wrench on the Gladiator yesterday.
Well, yeah, and you were telling me about the fact that you've had some of your Gladiator people kind of chiming in.
Hold on.
Okay.
I'm being daring. I put 2-wheel drive wiper blades on my 4-wheel drive Gladiator yesterday.
Folks, what am I going to do with him? Fine. Do they not wipe the mud well or something?
I don't know. I knew it was time when it went across the windshield going brrr, brrr. I'm like, all right, it just needs more Rain-X. Squirt, rub. Brrr. Oh, man, Rain-X won't even fix this? Got to get new blades. $15 from Amazon.
Yeah, folks, that's one of the things is that I have to laugh. Down here in Florida, I don't care how good the wiper blades are.
Yep.
I have spent $15 on wiper blades, and I have spent $60 on wiper blades. And the 60 might buy you a day.
Might buy between the sun baking the rubber.
Right.
My favorite is the Bosch Micro Edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, you use sand and salt here in Florida. And the first wipe with that Micro Edge blade with the sand and salt from Florida, you now have micro saw blades.
Yeah, and then the love bugs, which they've been minor this year, but
There
they
actually
still
was a note saying that they don't know why. Scientists are saying there's a lot.
We've had a drought, for Pete's sakes, and
Oh, yeah, well, that's true.
Scientists, come on, guys, look at the rain gauges. But anyhow,
Well, that's down the hall in hydrology.
Well, true.
This over here is
That's where I went to school. Remember,
this is over here in insectology.
entomology.
Oh, whatever, same thing. Bugs. Hey, look, exoskeleton, endoskeleton. I said that right?
Whatever.
Okay. Now I got to look it up. Is it really endoskeleton? Come on. Yeah, exoskeleton is when it's crunchy outside. Endoskeleton when you're crunchy on the inside.
I'm an engineer, not a doctor.
Fair enough.
Okay.
So anyways, yes, in answer to your previous statement, which I've been kind of like misdirecting for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah, the whole the Gladiator pages and the truck world is kind of on its heels because I have a coworker that, is constantly giving me grief because of the Gladiator. And They didn't like it when I said, "Oh, look, the 2023 Toyota Pro X4 or TRD. Look at those 1940s drum brakes. Look at that nice."
Yeah, do you believe that, folks? I mean, I used to love my Toyotas, and I still think that they make some good vehicles. But what happened to the truck? Frames that are rusting and breaking in half.
Well,
and they still are running drum brakes on the back.
Yes, and that's the thing that kills me is that, and they're saying, well, it works. I'm like, okay, that's great, but you're riding the '90s nostalgia. Now, like Kevin and I talked, you give me a 22 RE, you give me an old, Hilux style,
yeah, with an AX15 transmission
all day long,
they'll bebop around. You can put a carburetor on it, or you can put the, the first generation electronic standalone. They were fun trucks, and the bodies rusted off, but the frame was good. Now the bodies don't rust, but the frame seems to go.
It's even more than that.
Of course, I can't say too much. The TJ, you look at salt water, and it starts going crinkle, 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 crumble.
Hold on, that thought, because I work at the Flapping Penguin.
Yes, I know
and
you do.
The sad thing is remember I told you how we had the fourth Tundra with a shattered bottom end, practically.
Yeah.
And the 3.5, turns out they have wastegate issues. They have all kinds of plethora of issues. And so on these Gladiator pages, people are saying, sorry guys, I'm out. I bought a Toyota. And we're all kind of like, did you read on the Toyota problems pages yet there, buddy? But again, back to the other page.
Every vehicle has problem pages.
Vehicle. I've actually realized this. There is pre-COVID builds and after COVID, during and after COVID builds. A lot of the Gladiators are having a problem are the 21s, the 22s, and 23s, and that's right in the middle of parts problems. That's right in the middle of supply issues. That's right in the middle of COVID.
Yep.
Mine was built in 2019, July of 2019, so mine was all pre-COVID stuff. Mm-hmm. Mine seems to run, again, knock on wood, not a whole lot of problems. But a lot of this has affected, in my opinion, Gladiator sales, because now they're offering like $10,000 rebates, and that's kind of what my coworker sent me a nice little video saying, hey, the Gladiator's down, 30% in sales and $10,000 off and all these weird things, and how it's having struggling. And I'm like, okay, well, let me just do a quick little internet search. Oh, look at that. You bought a Tesla. Do you know Tesla sales are down 7%? I bet if I go online, I can find anything negative.
That's the thing is that, first off, my thought on that is simple, that, okay, Gladiators you can't say sales are necessarily falling. They're returning to a reasonable level. Gladiators went completely, what's your favorite term? Stark raving boobats?
Yeah, well,
whatever that means. They were so popular, and they still are, that it's normalized to me more than it's probably come down. And listeners, I'd like to know what you guys think. But, remember, when the things first hit, you couldn't buy one. Dealers were going out and they were marking them up $20,000, $35,000 above the MSRP. Mm-hmm. And people were paying that.
Yeah.
And Jeep couldn't make them fast enough. And then COVID hit. And even with COVID and trucks being shipped without ECUs, and said, and people were still going nuts to buy them. And now that we're down, and if you look at the numbers for the Gladiator, is still strong. Mm-hmm. It's not, I don't know. I think it's just normalizing. It's kind of like house prices are normalizing. And it's not that they're coming down, but they're kind of getting to where you'd like, at least I can afford to do this. It'll hurt me, but
Well, this isn't a political podcast. This is the Jeep podcast. But a lot of times, and as I tell everybody, and I even had the conversation with my coworker, I'm like, sales up front is slow, right?
Yeah.
Well. There's a reason why their sales are slow up front, because it's 7% interest on anything you buy right now,
right?
Especially an automobile, and that's if you have stellar credit. You're at 12%.
We're almost back up. We're double digiting again.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, I think that might have something to do with it. Unfortunately, everyone just for some reason has the Gladiator in their cross eye. So anytime it farts incorrectly, did you see that? Did you see that? Oh, jeez, people. I love my Gladiator.
Well, but let's put it in general. Have Jeeps ever been the stellar mechanical wonder that set the automotive world on fire?
Nope.
On the other hand, they still go places nobody else does.
Yeah.
Your Gladiator, the biggest thing it has a problem is high centering, because it's a long wheelbase, but it's still,
Yeah.
Yeah. Go
But
ahead.
I'm laughing because when you said that about going anywhere, is that one of the vehicles that talked about in the video?
Yeah.
And this is a automotive reviewer. This is a big time company, and it says, just look at this. The Gladiator. It's blah 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 blah. It's down and says, if you want a real off road vehicle, get yourself a Land Cruiser. The Land Cruiser starts at $100,000.
Yeah.
Tell me another vehicle that's for 100 and it has lockers. The Land Cruiser starts at $100,000 and has factory lockers. And I'm looking at this video going, the Rubicon starts at 50 or 49 and has lockers front and rear, not just rear.
Yeah.
And it's like it's that whole
which I have to laugh.
Witch
you know
hunt.
where the Land
Crusher?
Cruiser came from?
Yeah, the
Britain's attempt to copy the Jeep.
Oh no, Toyota.
I'm sorry, Toyota. I'm sorry. I'm thinking Land Cruiser versus Land Rover.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Land Cruiser is the heritage of trying to copy the Jeep, but use their materials. And you give me an FJ40.
Oh, yes.
Or even a 60, but 40s are just, they are a 1-ton chassis with a 6-cylinder, when they first came out, and particularly the 40s. And that's why everybody took them and pulled the 6 out and put in a small block Chevy 350 or a Ford, 302 or 351 Windsor, and went out and went nuts because the transmission could take it, the drive shafts could take it, and the axles could take it. The brakes maybe not so much, but most people were like,
use the tree or the car in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. But I love the early Land Cruisers, and Icon, the company, has created a new.
Yeah, I saw that. That is beautiful. Absolutely.
And so they're a lot of fun. But yeah, you like what you like, and you don't like what you don't like. We'll just put it that way, and so be it. Why do you got a bad mouth?
Exactly, and that's the thing. Because one of the conversations they had with me is he owned a JK, the coworker, and I said, did you enjoy driving? He goes, I loved it, but it just rode like crap. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's 2 solid axles.
Yeah,
and as we were talking, he's like, but
and what tires did he have on it?
He had 33. He had 35s. Sorry, 37s on 321 gears.
Right. Well, that would be a problem.
Why he had no power.
But Scott and I just had a discussion about this because I've had the opportunity to pick up some brand new tires at cost. I did not choose them, and I'm not going to tell you the brand, folks, because I'm not bad mouthing, because it's not a bad brand. But the particular tires, even though were my size, were a load range either D or E. Okay, I don't remember which one, but let's just say it's a D. Okay, I'll go with the softer. That is 3,000 pounds load range per tire nominally. Okay, my whole Jeep weighs 3,200 pounds. And when you give me that, plus they were a hard rubber compound. So there's nothing I could do with that tire. At that load range, it could be flat and it probably wouldn't crumple the sidewalls. I could get no confirmation around obstacles for climbing. Yes, it would last forever. It'd probably be the last set of tires I ever put on it, but I'm sure my spine would have been broken somewhere along the line, compressed from the harsh ride. And so I see that constantly, that people put large tires, but then go for for the hardest or the biggest lugs or a look, and then complain about how harsh the ride is. And that's just ridiculous. It's like, and I get it. Not everybody is an engineer. Not everybody's a tire tech. But you know what? The internet's out there. And if you're willing to look at someplace, you can go to TireRack.com and get comparisons. You can talk to your friends in the Jeep community and say, what do your tires ride like? Get together, go out and buy some paving stones and lay them down. Just a handful, 4 or 5 of them. Lay them on the street about 3 feet apart, and then air down and drive across them at about 20 miles an hour. You'll see whose tires can flex and whose can't. I guarantee you, some people have broken front teeth. I shouldn't say it that way, but you know what I'm saying. That you will be bouncing, just put them under one line of tires on the one side. I don't care which one. And you'll see what just a 2-inch paver at 20 miles an hour can do. And air down and see what it does. And some tires you air down, believe me, I had a set. I won't mention the brand. And, well, the worst ones were on a prior pickup truck I owned. It was also a Chrysler product, but not a Jeep. And 99, whatever it was. And I literally I ran over a bridge abutment, the expansion joint that had a flaw in it, and it sliced through the sidewall about 8 inches. And I drove home without having the tire go flat. It was out of air,
right? But
it held up the pickup truck. And somebody told me, your tire is cut. They waved me down, and I got out, and I'm looking. I'm like, I could poke my finger into it, and the sidewall still held the truck up. Now, was it stiff? It felt a little sloppy when you went around curves.
Yeah. But
I drove it home. Folks, that's too much sidewall for particularly a TJ, or even a YJ. Your vehicle only weighs 3,500 pounds, maybe a little more if you're really into the steel,
right.
Add-ons. But, you got 4 tires holding up that, and you need a sidewall. I went to a load range C tire, and it changed the whole ride. You've ridden in the slightly altered, and it's got great footprint and traction and compliance on the trail, and that's what you got to do.
Yeah,
and that's when I hear people go, well, my Jeep rides like, explicative deleted. And it's like, what tires do you have on them? Well, it doesn't matter. Tires. I've got this brand of lift kit and these springs. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. In other words, you've got something hard holding onto something else harder, which is hooked to the frame, which is hooked to the body, which is hooked to your seat base, which is hooked to your butt.
Yeah.
And none of them flex except your butt. Yeah, it's going to be a harsh ride.
Well, that's like you said, you got tired because the Jeep had no power and sucked gas and was terrible, and you had the 3.8 with 321 gears and 37s.
Yeah.
There's your problem.
Well, you're kind of outside of the power band, the efficiency curve, torque curve, just about everything. Hey, I'm surprised it survived.
Hey, speaking of torque curve, efficiency curves, and all that, didn't you recently help somebody?
Oh, well, yeah. That technically is Jeep related, but it wasn't a Jeep motor. The everlasting Jeep project over at Red Scorpion Fab Works that we've been working on for a long time is the LS powered. What is it? We've got 95. No, not 95. I'm sorry. Listen to me. It's a CJ7.
Yeah.
And I forget what year it is. 80. It's an 85 CJ7. It was a frame off restoration. Then kind of the customer murphed it into an LS swap and this, and then let's do this and let's make that and let's upgrade this. And I will tell you that those of us together that worked on it, we all kind of rolled with what we were given and probably picked the absolute worst way to do an LS swap, which was a la carte. The engine from one place, the wiring harness supposedly with the engine. The computers came with the engine, wasn't good, so we had to get another computer. Then we got a different transmission than what it came with that wasn't married to the computer. And all the accoutrements, well, the alternator came from somewhere else, and the starter came from somewhere else, and the, throttle body,
got a 59,
controls,
58, 57, 50.
Yeah, Johnny Cash's Cadillac. What has happened in the last year, it's developed something that I didn't know. So I got a chance to learn something new. So that's why I'm kind of excited about. The company owner, Ron, got me a call and said, hey, I can't get anybody to do this. Will you come look at it for me again? I said, I'll come look. I called another friend of ours of the show, and Robert was very, very kind. He's done an LS swapped TJ, except that he went with a different computer system. He went with the Holly system.
Yeah. Dominator, I think.
Whatever. One of those.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, that's all I said, look, yeah, but he works for a security company, one of the big ones, 3 letters, starts with A. He knows computer systems. He knows electronic systems. He knows Jeeping. And I said, look, I just need you to be a sounding board. And I can come in there and we can talk Jeep about things, and then we can talk electronics back and forth until we took me 2 solid days, folks. What his Jeep was doing was randomly this thing would just stop and ignore the gas pedal. It's a drive-by-wire system, and you suddenly the pedal, I mean, it still physically worked, but the computer just acted like it wasn't there. And you went to idle, and
that's it.
That was it. And the most questions I asked, it got no rhyme or reason to it, folks. So just to let you know that it can happen to anybody. But when you build it yourself, you're on your own. You know, they're really, I suppose you can hire someone that spend a lot of money, and they may or may not fix it. But we'll get to the punchline real quick. I was able to discover several GM service bulletins about something called dead pedal syndrome. It's literally there are papers on it in the GM library I was able to reach out for. And it comes from a neat situation that GM, while their computer systems are robust and fault tolerant, they get to a point where anything in a safety system, and the throttle is considered probably one of the highest safety systems, in that the computer runs the engine in the drive-by-wire systems, and it has to know what you want it to do.
Right.
Absolutely has to know. It can't apply full throttle if your foot's not on the pedal. That's just kind of a problem, that might not be a good thing. So they have safety systems in there, and they have various fault modes. And what was happening here was you calibrate the throttle pedal to the ECU, just like you also have to calibrate the throttle body to the ECU.
Right.
Well, we had an unknown engine with an unknown computer with an unknown
throttle body
with an unknown gas pedal. Whoopsie.
You couldn't add more variables if you tried.
And what was happening, it doesn't throw a check engine light, because that's not a check engine. It's a controls system malfunction. And all it does is you go into some of the buried codes in the individual systems. And up until a year ago, 2 years now, that I got my Autel scanner thing that would actually let me go in and read live data. And there's two modes. There's the interpreter mode, which is the one that when you enter the VIN number, it looks up the thing and it pulls the data. And then there's the raw OBD2 mode. And you can look at it on the Autel both ways. And you can compare the computer's output with the raw data output. And the computer's data, when you mapped, to start with, I said, well, first thing we're going to do is map the throttle body. And I told Robert I'd done this research, and this was something I thought was a problem, and we built up a plan. So we got there, and we started it up, and sure enough, the pedal was dead. So went ahead and shut everything down, and you disconnect the battery for 15 minutes, reconnect it, and then I was reading without starting the throttle pedal. And sure enough, in the GM side, when you read it on the program side, it was going and giving you a red kind of, I forget what the exact thing that shows on the Autel, but it basically said irrational answer. Impossible number. Let's just call it that. It wasn't what it said. It had some other code. You'd see percentage, which is fine. The GM fly-by-wire uses a 2 potentiometer gas pedal, one rising and one falling. And let's just say there's 0 to 50 ohms. The one starts at 0 and goes to 50. The other one starts at 50 and goes to 0. And the idea there, the end computer can look at them and know when they cross, that's half throttle. It knows where the throttle pedal is at all times. Well, what happens if this goes 0 to 50 and the other one goes 45 to 0? Well, they don't correlate, okay? There is no balance. And manufacturing, you're going to have variations like that. And it can handle some.
Right.
But when it gets pretty bad, and I was seeing that on the pedal strokes, I could see that the numbers on the computer were whacked out. And the computer would basically show you the red value that was unacceptable. I'd go over into OBD2, which is raw data, and actually see the voltages. And they weren't correlated perfectly, but they weren't whacked out. They were just, okay, they're not balanced to each other. Okay. So this service bulletin says if you do that, this is how you calibrate the gas pedal with the ECU. So we went through that procedure. Not particularly very hard. It's just a sequence, like many things, of do this situation. It kind of puts the computer in an open mode, and then you pump the pedal at a certain speed, 3 seconds up, 3 to 5 seconds down, hold it 3 to 5 seconds to the floor, back up, repeat 3 times, turn the key off, then restart. First time it didn't take. Tried it again. This time it took. Now I didn't have the error messages flashing on the GM side, and the GM side and the OBD2 side reported the same.
Cool.
Really cool. And then I went and did the same thing with the throttle body, because guess what? The throttle body was going, and when you start them, if you take the cover off on most of the GMs, the throttle body does a full sweep from idle closed all the way up. And sure enough, this one was going to closed, and a bunch of times it was giving an error at closed, which meant that the motor was being stopped before the computer thought it should be stopped.
Right.
All right. So it was out of calibration. Fortunately, that's another thing the auto bip, 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 bip. And it said, do you want to really overwrite this? Is this throttle body clean? Is it, you don't have debris in the thing? Yes, I'm good. And then it goes out there and goes, calibrated.
Cool.
Run through the sticks. Okay, fine. And then there's a last thing, which is a idle air calibration. Okay. That's a little motor with a screw drive and a pin at the end of it, a little cone-shaped pin over a hole in the side of the throttle body that lets air in. That's your idle, folks. In the old days of a screw, you used to open the throttle blade slightly with an idle screw to get air in there for idle. Well, this has a little solenoid motor or drive motor that screws that pin in and out, can adjust the airflow infinitesimally. The actual throttle blade is sealed closed. There is no air on the throttle blade like on the old carburetor. Well, you might guess it. That one was way out in left field too.
Nice.
So we went through that process and we pulled them all back together. And then the most interesting thing was it gave us the hope that we actually have it taken, is that we cross your fingers and hope. And we lit the thing off, and she lit off. And this time, she'd never idle less than 800. We couldn't get the idle to come down. This time she started up. She did her first run at about 800 RPMs for about 35 seconds. And then she dropped down to a beautiful purr at just a tick under 600 RPM. It has never idled so smooth in its life.
Nice.
And it was just sitting there, boom, 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 boom. And then Ron comes over and he's like, you test drive it. I said, no, Ron, I'm not test driving it. Yeah. I am not the one it dies on. You're the one who drives it that makes it die.
Yeah.
Go drive it. And he took off. Didn't take his phone, which was kind of risky.
That's Ron.
But you could hear him up and down the roads of the area where Red Scorpion is. Just, this is a 6-liter. It's, I'm trying to remember the mufflers we put on.
Aggressively mufflered.
Yeah, very. I mean, it sounds like, somebody on the drag strip, and he's just roaring all over the place. And he came back about 15 to 20 minutes, and it didn't quit on him. Didn't stop idling.
Nice.
And he is one happy camper. And that's not that I want everybody to do an LS. It's that there is a lot of times when you're doing with electronics, the actual work, it took us probably 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And most of that was because Robert and I were talking about it, talking right out loud, forcing your brain to take thoughts, convert them to speech and sound. Yeah. Will make a lot of things that you think, that's oh no, that doesn't sound good out loud. But I'll be honest with you, I put every bit of 16, 18 hours of research into this issue. And any of you can do the same thing when you're out trying to solve these problems that are just make you want to throw the thing, into the nearest car crusher. And I'm crossed my fingers. I haven't heard a call back now. It's been probably every bit of 4 weeks. Supposedly it's still running.
Sweet.
So even though haven't really been hard into wrench turning on Jeeps for the last month, I have had my hand in a few things.
Cool. Very cool.
So anyhow, Anything else on your end, boss?
Not really, man. I just I hope we get to see people at Crawling for the Fallen, and look forward for show 197 coming up on the 1st of November. You know,
That's pretty wild.
yeah, no, that's
Oh, yeah. We ought to also say, folks, have a happy and safe Halloween.
yes, absolutely.
So this is in 2 weeks from now. We will be putting the show out the day after Halloween, and that is if Scott's not in a candy coma.
Well, no, I was just looking at the fact that I still get the long drive home, and I got to cut this in releases tonight.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
So-
Yeah, we are actually recording the show for the 15th of October, 2023, on the 15th of October, 2023. We're a little behind.
You think by the 7th year we get this down, right?
Hey,
We've been busy.
we got the show out. That's all that matters.
That's all
right?
that matters.
So,
Well, hey,
folks, thanks again for everything. Scott, I guess you were going to say something there?
I was going to say, if you got any questions, comments, concerns, or emails or show ideas, please email them on thetrailpodcast@gmail.com. We'll be happy to reply to your either tech questions, and if it's a good tech question, we'll use it on the show.
Yep.
And,
absolutely.
again, Facebook Messenger, either which way, by all means, reach out to us. We'd love to hear the feedback. And pretty much with that, I think it's time we lock some hubs and put the Jeep in 4-loader. What do you think?
Well done, sir. Well
I
done.
actually remembered to also almost say, remember to take nothing but pictures and memories in your trash when you leave the show.
Yep. When you want to leave the show.
When you
I'd
wanna
rather
leave
if
the
you take it
trail.
the trail as well.
Yes.
But, Scott's doing the best he can.
I am.
So we appreciate everybody, each and every one of you for the listeners. Have a happy Halloween, and we'll chat with you guys later.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye. Bye.
Proceeding has been provided for entertainment only. Proper service and repair procedures are vital to the safe, reliable operation of all motor vehicles, as well as personal safety of those performing those repairs. Standard safety procedures and precaution, including the use of safety goggles and proper tools and equipment, should be followed at all times to eliminate the possibility of personal injury or improper service which could damage the vehicle or compromise its safety.
What he said. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
This has been a Bent Axle Media production.